Welcome to Enchanted Astrology with Ariel Smith. Thank you for joining me today as we explore the astrology for the week of July 15th until the 21st. And this is the week everyone's been waiting for because this week we have the basket formation, which consists of Pluto at 4 degrees of Aquarius, opposing Jupiter at 4 degrees of Leo, and holding Neptune at 4 degrees of Aries and Uranus at 4 degrees of Gemini. Now, this will be exact between July 18th and 23rd when Jupiter moves onto 5 degrees of Leo. However, it will continue to play out for the remainder of the month until Jupiter separates and moves on to 7 degrees of Leo, while Pluto continues his retrograde journey back to 3 degrees of Aquarius. Now, this specific configuration has not happened before in our lifetime. While we have certainly experienced these aspects individually before, they have not been experienced all together in this configuration, nor all at the same degree point. In this case, 4 degrees. So this is a rare alignment, and to understand this configuration, we are going to enter a city. And this city is the story of humanity, our systems, dreams, and the future we are building together. Now, in my view, the background of this configuration is the Pluto-Neptune sextile, as this is an aspect that has been playing out since the end of World War II. So after one of the darkest times in our recent history, Neptune joined Pluto in a sextile that has been playing out ever since. So every single person alive today has Neptune sextile Pluto in their chart. This is a generational aspect that we all carry within us. So we will get acquainted to our city, and then we will begin with Pluto and Neptune. So I invite you to close your eyes for a moment and imagine that you have been walking for a very long time. Not hours or days, generations. The road beneath your feet has been laid by countless people before you. Some of you know, some you never will know. But every stone carries the memory of someone who stopped long enough to place it there, trusting that one day another traveler would walk this way also. And as you round the bend, the landscape opens, and before you stands a city unlike any you have ever seen. At first glance, it feels ancient. Its foundations are very weathered with age. The streets are worn smooth by millions of footsteps. But as you continue to look, something doesn't quite make sense. Because parts of this city are still being built. You hear tapping of hammers in the distance. You see fresh timber being lifted into place. You notice glass catching the morning sunlight where new windows have just been installed. Cranes are moving slowly across the skyline. And yet, no one seems to be in a rush. There is no panic here. There is only what you can see as quiet, purposeful creation. You can hear children laughing as they run through the streets that didn't exist there yesterday. A woman sits beneath a tree that was planted long before she was born, and she watches young architects sketch buildings that no one has ever imagined before. Artists are painting murals that seem to change each time someone walks past them. And musicians gather in the public squares because music seems to become part of this city's foundation. And as you continue to observe this city, you notice that there are no abandoned neighborhoods. No district is considered more important than another. The grand avenues and the quiet side streets all belong together to the same city. The smallest home is no less essential than the tallest tower. Everything here seems to exist in relationship. Every bridge connects, every garden nourishes, every workshop creates something that another part of the city needs. Nothing is standing alone for itself. And as you wander farther, you notice there are no signs telling people where they belong. No gates are separating those who are worthy from those who are not. No one appears to be earning permission to exist here. They simply do. Each person moves through the city carrying something that only they can bring. A baker places warm bread on a windowsill. A gardener tends flowers growing through cracks in the stone. A young inventor laughs as sparks leap from a machine that no one has seen before. And none of them seem to believe that their work is more important than anyone else's. Because here, life itself is understood to be the contribution. The baker does not envy the artist does not envy the engineer does not envy the gardener. Each understands that the city is only whole because every person brings something that no one else can. And then you notice the skyline, and it is changing. And it's not slowly changing over decades, it's changing right now, right here. A rooftop garden appears where there was only stone just moments ago. A footbridge stretches across a river as if responding to someone's realization that two neighborhoods had always wanted to meet. A wall disappears and it's replaced by an open courtyard where strangers begin sharing a meal together. And it's then that you start to understand this city is actually alive. It is not merely just built from brick and timber, it is built from choices. So every act of courage becomes another street. Every generous heart plants another tree. Every new idea opens another district. Every dream lays another stone. This city is listening. And it's not listening to governments or to kings. And it's not listening to those who claim to know the way. No, it is listening to the quiet movements within every human heart. And as the people change, the city changes. As their consciousness expands, the skyline rises with it. As they learn to care for one another, new neighborhoods emerge where none could have existed before. And suddenly you realize something else, that you have been here before, just not in your body, but somewhere much deeper. Because this city is not something that's waiting to be discovered. It has been growing inside humanity all along. Every generation has added another street. Every generation has repaired another bridge. Every generation has dreamed another possibility into existence. And now it is our turn. So today I want to invite you to walk through this city with me. We'll discover why some roads seem to appear overnight while others have been patiently unfolding for generations. We'll learn why the city's greatest treasures are never locked away. And perhaps by the time our journey is complete, you'll discover that you were never simply walking through the city, you have actually been building it all along. Now, before we enter the newest districts of the city, we must first understand the river that has been flowing beneath it for generations. And astrologically, we begin with the Neptune-Pluto sextile. This is not a brief passing influence. Neptune and Pluto move slowly, and their sextile has been a generational background current since the end of the Second World War. So this was a pivotal moment in human history where the old world had been shaken. Humanity had witnessed the depth of its own destruction, and from that place came a collective question. What kind of world do we want to build now? Neptune represents the dream, the vision, the ideals, the image of what could be. And Pluto represents transformation, the deep process of our evolution, the willingness to release what no longer serves in order to create something new. And together, their sextile describes a relationship between our vision and our evolution. So the dream influences the transformation, and the transformation gives the dream a pathway into our reality. And in our city, this is the river beneath the streets. It is the unseen current that has carried humanity forward since the rebuilding began. It flows through every generation, and it asks us the same question: are we becoming the kind of civilization we truly wish to create? So this river does not build the city for us, but it does inspire the blueprint, because it places the image of a better city within the minds of those who live there. And every generation receives the same invitation: see what could be. Imagine beyond what already exists and transform what no longer reflects who we want to be. This is the quiet work of Neptune sextile Pluto. So the city doesn't change because there's somebody outside of it that commands it to change. It's not taking orders from an external source. The city changes because the people inside it begin carrying a new vision, a new possibility, and a new dream. And over generations, that dream becomes the architecture that we see in the city. It forms the new streets, the new systems, the new ways of connecting and relating with each other. And the river reminds us that evolution first begins invisibly. Before a building ever rises, someone imagines it. Before a society changes, someone dreams differently. Before a new world exists outside of us, it must first exist within us. And this is the foundation beneath the entire configuration that we are exploring. The city we are walking through today did not appear overnight. It has been forming for generations. And now, as we move into the present day, the present sky, the question is, what kind of city are we wanting to build next? And this brings us to the first major force shaping this new chapter, and that is Pluto in Aquarius. So as you walk deeper into the city, you notice something a bit unusual. There is a neighborhood where the construction has stopped, but the builders are not gone. The vision has not disappeared. They have just simply realized something important. The original design no longer reflects the city that they have become. So we can see that the foundations are strong, the buildings have served their purpose, but the people have changed. And the city is then ready to evolve. And this is Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto is the force of deep transformation. It brings us beneath the surface. It brings us into the foundations of what has been created, and it asks us to examine the structures that we have inherited and understand what is ready to change. Aquarius is the sign of the collective. It speaks to communities, networks, shared systems, and also the recognition that every individual exists as part of something larger. And together, Pluto in Aquarius invites the city to imagine a new way of belonging. So these architects gather in the center of the city and they study the foundations. They look at the pathways that people use to travel and they listen to the needs of the neighborhoods. So they are asking, what kind of city supports the life that is emerging? And this is the work of Pluto, of seeing deeply and understanding what has shaped the present while creating space for what is ready to be born. And slowly, a new vision begins to take form. And this is a city where connection is valued, where communities support one another, where every neighborhood contributes to the strength of the whole. And this is the higher expression of Aquarius, which is a recognition that everyone belongs. Every person carries a unique expression of life. A musician brings something that only a musician can bring. A gardener tends something that only a gardener can tend to. The city becomes stronger because each person is free to offer what is uniquely theirs. And so instead of asking, what have you done to earn your place here? This new city starts asking, what becomes possible when every person has the support to become who they are? Because every builder needs tools, every artist needs materials, every garden needs water, and every person needs a foundation that allows their unique gifts to develop. And this is the vision of Pluto in Aquarius, a city where human potential is nurtured, where resources create opportunity, where people are supported in their individual journeys while remaining connected to the larger whole. So the city begins to remember something that had long been forgotten. It was never a collection of separate buildings. It has always been one living system where every street is connected, every neighborhood influences another, every person is contributing to the life of the whole. And the transformation is happening at the level of identity. Humanity is beginning to see itself differently. The individual and the collective are not so separate. Each person is an expression of the greater whole, and the greater whole is shaped by each individual expression. And this is the evolution of Pluto in Aquarius. The city is being redesigned from the inside out. But a vision requires movement. A blueprint requires somebody willing to begin, and someone must be willing to take that first step to walk into an empty space and say, I see what could exist here. And that is where the next force enters our story, which is the dreamer who becomes the first builder in Neptune and Aries. So as you continue walking through this city, you arrive at the edge of a neighborhood that is still waiting to be created. Right now, there are no buildings here. There are no streets, no signs showing what should come next. It's just an open space. And for many people passing by, it looks unfinished and empty. A place where nothing has happened yet. But one person stands there quietly looking across the land, and they are imagining. They can see what others cannot see yet. A place where people gather, a place where creativity flows, a place where life can maybe unfold in a new way. This is Neptune in Aries. Neptune is the realm of imagination. It is the dream before it becomes form. It is the inner vision that arrives before the outer world has the language to describe it. Aries is the beginning, that first spark, the moment when an idea moves from the inner world into action. And together, Neptune and Aries asks us what vision is waiting for someone to bring it into existence. So the person standing in the empty space does not have a complete blueprint. They don't know every step, and they don't know exactly how the neighborhood will unfold, but they do feel something. They feel a knowing, a pull, and a sense that this possibility is something worth exploring. And so they begin. They place the first stone, or they draw the first line, or they plant the first seed, and someone walking through the city notices, and they stop and they look, and they see the beginning of something new. And the next day, another person arrives, and then another, and the space begins to change. And no one has instructed anyone to come. But one person gave themselves permission to begin. And this is the magic of Neptune and Aries. The dream becomes alive through action. The vision becomes a path when someone is willing to walk it. And for a long time, the people of the city had waited for the perfect moment. They waited for certainty or permission or for someone else to show them the way. But Aries understands something simple. And that is that the path is created by walking it. So the first step reveals the next step. The beginning carries its own wisdom. And Neptune adds something deeper to this Aries energy because the action is not only driven by ambition, but it is coming from alignment with a vision. It's a feeling of connection to something that is deeply meaningful. So the builder is not creating something just to be a leader or to be seen. They are creating because something within them is asking to be expressed. And when one person follows that inner calling, it changes what others believe is possible. The first builder does not create followers. They create possibility because they remind others that they also carry a vision. They remind others that they also have permission to begin, that they also have something unique to offer the city. And slowly, more empty spaces begin to transform, where new gardens appear, new gathering places are built, new ideas are finding their way into the city's design. And the city is evolving because individuals are willing to bring their inner worlds into expression in the outer world. And this is the invitation of Neptune and Aries to trust the vision, honor the spark, allow the dream to move through you, because every great change in the city began the same way. Someone imagined something that did not exist yet, and then they took the first step. But as more builders begin creating, something else now starts to happen, which is ideas are starting to move faster. So the distance between imagination and creation begins to shrink. Messages travel across the city in moments. New concepts spread from one neighborhood to another, and the city begins changing in ways that no one could have predicted. And that brings us to the next force shaping the city, which is the messenger, the inventor, the one who changes how the city thinks, Uranus in Gemini. And as the new neighborhoods begin to take shape, the city begins to change faster and faster. At first, the residents barely notice. A new message travels from one neighborhood to another. A new idea appears in the public square. A new invention finds its way into everyday life. These are small changes, small moments. But one day, someone looks around and realizes the city is no longer changing at the same pace it once did. And this is Uranus in Gemini. Uranus is the force of awakening. It introduces new ideas and perspectives, new ways of experiencing the world, and Gemini is the realm of the mind. Communication, information, curiosity, the exchange of ideas that allow a city to learn and grow. And together, Uranus and Gemini changes the way the city thinks. So imagine the history of the city as a giant book. And for generations, people have turned one page at a time. Each chapter unfolds gradually. One event leads to another. One idea develops into the next. There is a natural rhythm to the story. But when Uranus enters Gemini, the pages begin turning differently. Suddenly, new information appears. Suddenly, new characters enter the story. New possibilities start to emerge, and the next chapter arrives before anyone could expect it. So the city begins to feel as though time is now moving faster. But perhaps it is not time that is moving faster. Perhaps it is change. The distance between one idea and the next becomes smaller. A thought in one part of the city can inspire action somewhere else almost immediately. A discovery in one neighborhood can immediately transform another. A conversation between two people can become the beginning of something that reaches thousands. So the city becomes more connected. Ideas begin traveling like rivers running through the streets. This is the gift of Uranus in Gemini. The expansion of awareness through connection. So the city begins to understand that knowledge is not something that you hold in one place. It is something that moves, it circulates, it grows when it's shared. And with every new connection, the people of the city begin discovering brand new ways to see themselves. So a person who once thought they were alone finds a community across the city. or an idea that once existed only in someone's imagination finds the people who can help bring it into reality. A voice that was once unheard finds a new place to be expressed. Uranus in Gemini changes the pathways between people. It creates new roads for thoughts to travel, new bridges for understanding, new ways for the city to communicate with itself. But like any great change, it also requires awareness. When information moves quickly, the city must learn how to discern what nourishes it and what distracts it. A city with endless messages must learn how to listen. A city with endless ideas must learn how to recognize wisdom. The purpose of connection is not just to get more information, it is to gain a greater understanding. And this is where Uranus in Gemini supports the larger transformation of the city, where the new ideas that are arriving are not appearing randomly. They are arriving within a much larger evolutionary process. The river beneath the city is still flowing. The foundations are still being transformed, and the dream is still guiding the builders. So Uranus is simply changing the speed at which the city can imagine, communicate, and create. The pages are turning faster. The possibilities are arriving sooner. The city now has more tools than ever before to write its next chapter. And now, as these new ideas begin moving through the city, something important must happen where the city must learn how to integrate them. Because a new idea is only the beginning. A vision becomes real when it becomes part of everyday life, when it becomes integrated. And that brings us to the next movement in our story, the future becoming part of the city itself, with Uranus trine Pluto and Uranus sextile Neptune. Now, the city has always been changing. Ideas have arrived, new connections have formed, new possibilities have opened. But now something is happening where the things that once seemed impossible start becoming familiar. The inventions that once belonged only to dreamers or science fiction begin appearing in everyday life. The pathways that once existed only in imagination now become roads that people travel every day. And this is the integration of Uranus with Pluto and Neptune. Uranus brings that spark of sudden insight, unexpected possibility, but through its relationship with Pluto, those sparks begin transforming the city at a much deeper level. And this is Uranus trine Pluto, because Pluto is asking, how does this change us? How does this become part of the evolution of the city? The city does not just randomly collect new ideas. No, it learns from them, it adapts, it transforms. A new invention becomes a new way of living. A new perspective becomes a whole new system. A new possibility becomes part of the entire foundation. And this is how evolution works. The future arrives first as an idea. Then it's an experiment. Then eventually it's something ordinary. And there was a time when the city's residents could not imagine communicating across distances instantly. There was a time when certain knowledge was accessible only to a select few. There was a time when ideas moved slowly and they were carried only by those who had access to certain specific places and resources. But the city kept changing. And what once seemed extraordinary became part of everyday life. And this is the gift of Uranus trine Pluto, the ability to take what is new and integrate it into the collective. The city becomes more adaptive, more responsive, and even more capable of evolving. But Uranus is not only connected to Pluto, it also forms a sextile with Neptune. And this brings another quality to the transformation, because the new ideas arriving in the city are connected to a vision. They are connected to imagination and to the dream of what the city could become. So the builders are not simply creating because they are instructed to. They are creating because they see something worth creating. The tools are now becoming more powerful. But the question is, what will we use them to build? And this is where Neptune guides Uranus, because the imagination gives the direction to the innovation. The dream of Neptune gives purpose to the invention of Uranus. So the city begins to understand that progress is not just about moving forward. It is about moving toward something meaningful. A bridge is not valuable because it exists. It is valuable because it connects. And a tool is not valuable just because it is new. It is valuable because it serves life. A technology is not valuable because it is powerful. It is valuable because of what it allows humanity to become. And this is the higher expression of these relationships, which is innovation, yes, but guided by vision. Our transformation being guided by something deeply meaningful and purposeful. And the city learns that the future is not something that just happens to it. No, the future is something it is participating in creating. And as the city becomes more connected and more innovative, more capable of creating, now another force begins to rise. A new energy moves through the streets. People begin expressing themselves more boldly. Artists create now on larger scales. Creators bring their visions into the world. And the city begins to celebrate the unique expression of every individual. And this sparks a great warmth that spreads through the center of the city. And it makes it a place where people can gather and share their creativity, and where every person is invited to bring forward their unique gifts. We are now in the heart of the city, and this is where we meet our final major force, Jupiter in Leo. Now, as you enter the very center of the city, you are struck by how alive the streets feel. Music fills the air. Artists are gathered in squares. Children are playing and creating without any hesitation. People are painting, dancing, performing, and sharing what moves through them. There is a sense here of celebration, a reminder that life itself is creative. And this is Jupiter in Leo. Jupiter expands whatever it touches. It brings growth, confidence, generosity, and the desire to express something meaningful. And Leo is the sign of the heart. It is the creative force within us that says, I have something unique to share. So the city begins to remember the importance of expression, the importance of joy, the importance of creating simply because creation is an act of being alive. So the artists of the city are not creating because the city has instructed them to, or because there is a mandate to. They are creating because something within them wants to move through them. A song wants to be sung. A painting wants to be painted. A story wants to be told. And a vision wants to take form. And this is the gift of Jupiter in Leo. It reminds every person that they carry a unique spark of creative life, that they are not simply observers of the city. They are creators within it. But as the celebrations grow, you notice something else become visible. At the edge of the square stands a great tower. It has been there for generations, and it represents the power of the individual, the desire to shine, to create something extraordinary, and to leave a mark. And across from it stands the center of the city itself. This is the place where all neighborhoods meet. The place that reminds everyone that the city belongs to all of its inhabitants. This is the opposition between Jupiter in Leo and Pluto in Aquarius, the heart and the body, the individual expression and the collective whole. So Jupiter in Leo asks, what is the unique gift that I came here to share? And Pluto in Aquarius asks, how does that gift contribute to the life of everyone? And together, they create a beautiful balance, because the city does not ask its artists to stop creating. No, it celebrates their brilliance. But it reminds them that the greatest creations are the ones that bring life to the whole city. The greatest artists are not remembered only because they created something beautiful. They are remembered because their creations touched something universal. They helped people feel. They helped people see differently. They helped people remember something about themselves. And this is the higher expression of Jupiter opposite Pluto, the expansion of the individual heart in service to the collective body. Now, the heart is one of the most powerful organs in the body. It has its own rhythm, its own intelligence, its own purpose. But the heart fulfills its purpose through circulation. Every beat sends life outward. It does not keep the energy for itself. It gives. And because it gives, the entire body is nourished. This is the relationship between Leo and Aquarius. The individual becomes more fully themselves. And through that authentic expression, the collective becomes stronger. The city begins to understand that greatness is not about standing above others. Greatness is about creating something that allows more life to flourish. A musician who inspires another person to find their own voice. An inventor who creates something that improves daily life. An artist whose work reminds thousands of people of their own humanity. A creator whose abundance becomes a source of abundance for others. The brightest lights in the city are not the ones that make everyone else smaller. They are the ones that help others discover their own light too. And this is the balance Pluto in Aquarius brings to that Jupiter in Leo. Because the heart remains powerful, the creativity remains expansive, and the desire to create is very much alive. but the center of gravity shifts, where creation becomes an offering, expression becomes connection, and success becomes something that moves through the city rather than something that separates one person from another. And perhaps this is the greatest invitation of this configuration, to become fully ourselves while remembering we belong to something greater, to create boldly while allowing our creations to nourish the world around us, to let our light shine while remembering that we are all part of the very same sky. So the city has now received the dream. It has transformed its foundations. It has discovered new ways to connect. It is learning how to integrate the future, and it has remembered the power of the heart. Now all that remains is to see what happens when every part of the city begins working together. And that is where we arrive at the final chapter. To see the city that we are becoming. And so as you stand in the center of this city, you see it all at once. You see the river beneath the streets. You see the neighborhoods being rebuilt. You see all the pathways connecting the people. You see the squares filled with music, art, and celebration. Everything is part of one living system. And the river is what carried the dream across generations. Pluto transformed the foundations. Neptune inspired new beginnings. Uranus opened new pathways. Jupiter brought the warmth of creativity and the courage to express. And together, these forces reveal the story of the basket configuration, which is a city evolving through vision, transformation, connection, and creation. And the city begins to remember that every person is part of the whole. Every life is connected. Every single expression contributes to the life of the city. And when people are supported in becoming who they are, the entire city becomes stronger. Creativity flows more freely. Ideas move more easily. People have the space to explore, create, and share what they carry within them. And the city changes because the people within it start living from a deeper understanding that we are not separate from the world we are creating. We are creating it together. And the future of the city does not arrive through waiting for someone else to decide what is possible. It begins when people recognize their own ability to participate. They bring forward their ideas. They build what they see is needed to create from connection rather than separation. And this is the vision held within this configuration. A city where every person has the foundation to grow, where every person has the freedom to express, where every person understands that their presence is part of something larger. And the city continues becoming a reflection of the consciousness that lives within it. So may this configuration remind you that your creativity matters, your vision matters, your presence matters, because the world we experience is shaped by the way we choose to participate in it. And the city we are building begins with the city that we are creating together. Now, this week's Yin Yoga practice is inspired by the Jupiter-Pluto opposition inviting you to explore the relationship between your creative expression and the collective body we are all a part of. Like the heart circulating life through the body, our gifts and creativity become most powerful when they nourish something greater than ourselves. So together, we will explore how we can allow our own creative energy to expand and move through us in a way that nurtures the greater body we are all part of. So if you would like to work more deeply with this energy, you can find this practice in the yoga studio at enchantedistrology.ca. And in the spirit of this new world we are building, I have created 3 pathways for joining the Enchanted Astrology membership, so you can choose the level that best supports your current circumstances. I believe everyone deserves the opportunity to participate, explore, and experience these practices regardless of where they are in their personal journey. And I also believe deeply in the generosity of the human heart. That when we find ourselves in a place of abundance, we naturally want to help create access and support for others. So with that in mind, the membership is available at 3 levels: a supported pathway, a sustaining pathway, and an abundant pathway. So each provides full access to the studio and the growing collection of astrology-inspired yin yoga practices. I trust each person will choose the pathway that feels aligned with their circumstances, because a future built on choice, freedom, and mutual support is a beautiful thing. So if you would like to begin a yin yoga practice connected with astrology, I would love to welcome you into the studio. Now, I wish you all a beautifully expansive and creative week, and I will be back next Wednesday with another episode.